So when you first get started in what I call non-clinical consulting, it's so important just to leverage the skills, the expertise, and the passion with what you already have. Hi, I'm Dr. Abeyna Bubbers-Jones. I'm an occupational health physician, a serial entrepreneur, and founder of Medic Footprints, the global platform that connects doctors with the best in diverse career opportunities. So I have helped hundreds of doctors like you move from clinical to high value, non-clinical industry roles in companies like Bain, Bupa, Roche, as well as startups. And so I'm going to tell you how you can do exactly the same. So what is consulting? Consulting is quite simple, actually. It's selling your own expertise to someone who is willing to pay for it. And it really is as basic as that. It took me ages to really understand what that was and what that meant, but that's it in very simple terms. And it can look different shapes and sizes. So what we see a lot of doctors do is that they start consulting or giving their expertise to companies and industries, so whether that's health tech, pharma, or even consulting companies themselves, right? So they usually go into companies and start working on projects. And as a result of that experience, not only working with one company, but several, that's where opportunities end up. Those non-advertised opportunities tend to appear. And also, because you're not committed to any company, you can cherry pick. You can cherry pick the type of work that you do, the type of companies that you work with, and when opportunities do come up, the type of work that you actually end up doing. And so this is why I always say, especially if you're new to industry, really start with the lowest hanging fruit, really leveraging what you already know, and you get to know the companies that way. And then you can decide whether they're worth working with or not. And this is the challenge whenever you are applying for a job, you might end up working with a company that you don't want to work with long term. And the challenge with that for a lot of doctors is that, hey, I then can't move because I'm relying on this income to pay my bills. And again, the cycle continues. So when you first get started in what I call non-clinical consulting, it's so important just to leverage the skills, the expertise, and the passion with what you already have. And so this doesn't mean that if, say, for example, you're a GP, that you can't then consult on anything outside of GP. We have one of our fellows who I mentioned before is a GP, but also is passionate about music, health tech, and has developed a lot of experience in that area, not through qualifications, but through doing, but through their connections and through their passions. And so they develop that expertise that they're sharing with music health tech companies. We also have another fellow who came from a women's health or Obs Gynae background and has created a niche of working with Femtech companies very specifically. So this is just an example of things that you can do, especially when you get started. And you will find as your career develops, your interest will expand. And there'll be so many different areas that you can really focus on. We have another one of our fellows who does come from a generalist background, but is focusing on working with healthcare consulting firms because they have a really specific skill on being able to deal with complex problem solving. So the focus isn't their specialty, it's what they can do, and also working with values-driven companies. So when we work with our fellows, one of the first things that we do is encourage them to develop their own niche. So you may be thinking, what is a niche? So a niche is a very specific area of interest. You'll find in industry that the deeper your niche, the higher your value, because there aren't that many people like you doing what you're doing. Therefore, you end up being indispensable. And that is actually quite different from being a doctor. So think about it. For example, if you're a generalist, in the general population of doctors, generalists usually make up at least half of the population of doctors. And unfortunately, this is why in some places, doctors feel like they're undervalued, because if they can't work, then it's relatively easy to find another one of you, right? So in industry, in order to really up your game and up your value, you need to choose a very specific area that very few or ideally no other people are doing, but it is of huge value to certain sectors and industries. And it's that will help you really develop your authority, your branding, and the chances of you getting a job and really standing out in your area of interest.